So I think we've got a few other little sort of general points of discussion, but Mick's got a uh, quick session just on Stack Exchange and various things of that nature. So Mick, do you want to lead off? Unmute yourself. It's the first time I'm going to tell you that.
Am I able to take command, share my screen?
Yep, hang on.
So there's two things that I want to talk about. The first was I got tapped by a recruiter during the day today who must have just looked me up on LinkedIn. And he's looking for a PHP developer with Joomla background. Am I able to share?
Yep.
Stuart?
Yes, I made you host.
How are we doing now? Does that come through?
Yep.
Okay, so this is this Jack Buxell here on the left. This is the dude. And I asked him to give me the whole ad. So the whole ad is this one. Yeah, so the requirements look a little bit steep, like they want you to sacrifice your personal life. It might be one of those. It might not be. Look, I don't know. I've only glanced over this ad. But I said there was no trouble for us to promote. I think this is a reasonable responsibility of this group is to share possible Joomla jobs for people that need to fill gaps and those that are looking to fill the gaps. And I just thought this was a really appropriate forum to share with. So if you or anyone you know is looking for a job change or a new role or needs a job, and fits these requirements, please, by all means, follow up with this. You're welcome to screenshot this. I don't know that I'll necessarily need to share it explicitly on the meetup, but
we've got a jobs channel on the Slack, in the Slack group, where you can share this kind of thing.
okay.
You just post the ad, and if people want it, they'll get back.
Okay. Well, I'm not doing. There's so many communication channels that I'll be honest, I'm not indulging in Slack. But would anyone like? Can I give this to someone that they could drop it on my behalf?
You send it to me, Mick. I'll do it tomorrow.
Okay. Cool. So that's that piece of business. I'll just close them out.
Thanks for that. And
the next piece is a little bit of a what's news with Joomla Stack Exchange, where I'm a moderator. Every month I talk about how things are tracking. Let's see, where do I start? So I've crunched some numbers. Let me start with this one. And we are tracking very, very well since the last meetup. So this is the most recent month's worth of numbers across this row. So in the last month we've had 67 new questions, which is nearly double how many we had the previous month. So clearly this COVID pandemic is actually forcing people in to their isolation. They're doing a bit more IT work, and that it's a market increase. Even the month before that was also around 30. So it's quite a substantial spike. We've had more answers to those questions, which is a good thing. And we've even had more new users sign up since last month, almost 20 more. So that's a good thing. Also, where people are posting some of their Joomla questions is on Stack Overflow and tagging their question as a Joomla question. So there are noticeably less of these kinds of numbers, and there are even less answers to those questions. So it's really not the most ideal place to post your Joomla questions. If you're wondering where you should post them, my advice is to avoid posting Joomla questions on Stack Overflow because they are very likely to be downvoted. They are very likely to go unanswered, and they're more likely to receive snarky comments because the expectation of quality in the question is very high in Stack Overflow. But on Joomla Stack Exchange, it's a much more forgiving place. You're very unlikely to be downvoted. And the people that can identify a question that's not complete they're going to bother to carefully explain to you why your question needs a bit more of something. And it's just a far more helpful place. So my advice to everyone is definitely get involved with Joomla Stack Exchange. And how do I do that? How do we get more people to do that? Well, it's got to appear more welcoming. Primarily, one of the reasons why we have so many questions in the last month was because of a single user who has found the post button. So his name is Tiago, and I don't know where he's come from, but he single-handedly has posted like 40 different times. So he's generating much of these statistics that are in this graph. I didn't explain these other rows. So there's actually a way to run queries on any of the Stack Exchange communities to see how many votes there are, who's like questions and who's earning points and all of that. So there's this crazy mechanism, and I was just running a few queries for me to derive these statistics that I had. And people get crazy with the pie charts and stuff, but that's neither here nor there. Now, this Tiago guy who I want to highlight. So his question was one that was relatively simple, and it was an easy mistake for a beginner to make, but that doesn't make it a bad question. So it was actually quite a well-framed question, and it was so perfectly described that the people that could volunteer to help him were able to recreate the problem and instantly give him a resolution without even asking for more information. As you can see here, there are no comments. So very quickly, one of our best volunteers is called Sharky. He's one of the most reliable sources of information, and so he's very quickly said, all you have to do is remove the quote method call in your where clause. Job done. And this guy was, super excited. He's like, oh my gosh, that didn't take very long. All I had to do was post a question. And what was that, 20 minutes later, he had an answer and he was back to work again. So that is a brilliant opportunity or a reason why people should be posting there. You don't have to shut down work when you get stuck or go and cry in a corner somewhere. You just post your question as eloquently as you can. And if you're lucky, someone will answer for you. So he quickly accepted it, and the question got up votes, and the answer got up votes, and everything's good. I saw this, and I thought, oh, that's good that there's a resolution, but this still represents another opportunity to inform and empower Joomla users to understand what the problem is and how to resolve it on their own, because ideally what we want is to make people aware of how to diagnose, how to debug, and how to solve their own problems so they don't have to ask for help. So I took it upon myself to first explain that Sharky's answer was correct, and then I explained what was actually being rendered by the Tiago's code. And so, and even when I showed what was rendered, it might not be instantly, it might not set off a light bulb moment that, oh, that's what needs to be fixed. But this was an odd error for the user to be experiencing, because it wasn't actually generating any fatal errors. There was no flags being set off. It just wasn't giving any results. So I went into how to present errors and be able to see the queries that you're printing out. So I gave guidance about how to debug and diagnose. And then there was to inform the user about what's going on. Why was their query actually running without a failure, but was giving the empty result set? And so I attached a link to Stack Overflow that explains it in depth about how it could have worked. And then I gave some additional advice at the end. So this is the ideal complete page where one clear question is asked and multiple people can chime in with all of the insights that they care to. Joomla or Stack Exchange in general says that good questions should be receiving 2.5 answers. So that's what we're aiming for, is like if we get enough people like competing and putting and chiming in and adding their 2 cents, you end up with a really, really informative repository of knowledge. So you just get this really great, it's like researcher's paradise, that anything you want to know, it will be there. And so this is the case, is for anybody who wants to get involved with this, even simple questions are welcome. Everybody makes simple mistakes. Just make sure they're clear and it's a good question. You won't be downvoted for asking a simple question. You might be downvoted if you ask a question that nobody can answer because it's unclear. Well, even still, probably not too likely, because there's not a lot of downvoting here. But if you want to have a successful page, it's about the clarity, not the actual quality of your understanding. Like it's all about just giving it a good, honest effort and continuing to work on it. So this was my pick of the last month. That's Mick's pick. Beyond that, I just happen to have this page. This is the fresh data that Stack Exchange presents on how Joomla Stack Exchange is tracking in terms of the numbers. And I just was looking over my old slideshow from Joomla Day, and I just want to compare that. I can get that one. Is that covered up for you guys, or can you see? Probably not the best.
I can say it, Mick.
Just that, so just comparing the two. So the one on the left is the current data. So we've actually increased ever so slightly on our average questions per day. So that's tracking up since last August. The number of answers we've received has gone down, but that's proportionate, to, I think, to the questions. Is that I think there's more questions being poured in and less answers being provided. So that just takes a bit more effort, that we have clearer questions, so the more answers can be provided. Our user base has increased, and that's a good thing. It's actually marked as excellent, so that's good for us. Answer ratio, oh, there it is. It's effectively stayed the same. And visitors per day, there's a lot of people that are going to Joomla Stack Exchange looking for answers. This is one of the primary places people should be looking. I mean, Joomla Forum is probably the primary place, but only because it's been around for so long and people only know to look there. I think I was very sad to see that Joomla 4 is not promoting Joomla Stack Exchange. I think it's gone back to just promoting the forum. But I personally don't use the forum. I find it very clunky and messy, and it's too much scrolling to find what I want, and a lot of the content is very, very old anyhow. I think a lot more of the Joomla Stack Exchange content is more recent and has to do with Joomla 2.5 and up, 3 and up, all of that. So I only look at Joomla Forum after I've exhausted everything that's in Joomla Stack Exchange. So look, that's all that I've got. It was just a bit of a giddy up, and I wanted to show what's been happening. If anybody's got any questions about it, that's fine. I can have it. Otherwise, I can pass the mic back to whoever's taking the reins.
Thanks, Mick. That's great.